Hello friends, today we're going to use some of those same ideas that we were talking about yesterday to solve quadratic equations using square roots again. These first two are just a little brief example, very similar to the ones that you did in your homework last night. So let's see if we can solve them fairly quickly. How about this first one? 3x squared minus 3 equals 0. How do you solve that? Plus 3, and we get 3x squared equals 3. Next step, divide by 3. Remember, we need to get that x squared, whatever is squared, needs to be isolated. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then we take our square root of both sides. And, of course, remember, what's that thing we need to remember? Plus or minus. So we get our answer of plus or minus 1 for that one. Second one, add your 400. So you get 4x squared equals 400. Divide by 4. X squared equals 100. Square root both of those. And plus or minus 10, because the square root of 100 is 10. So hopefully yesterday's assignment made some sense to you. If not, please do email me. I'd love to know. I can try and help you as best I can from afar, but you have to let me know where you're struggling. Here we have our new things. Okay, it's the same process as yesterday. So same process, we just have a little bit different thing going on because now you see in parentheses here, we actually have not just x squared, we have some quantity, in this case x minus 4 squared. The same process, we want to first isolate the whatever squared. Okay, we want to get that squared thing all by itself, so we need to isolate that. So we're going to isolate our parentheses squared, whatever that happens to be, and then square root both sides. All right, so what does that look like? In our example here, to isolate that squared thing, for lack of a better word, we are going to divide by the 6 that's out front. So now I will have x minus 4 squared equals 7. Okay, then I have my squared thing all by itself, so it is now time to square root both sides. That square root and that square, excuse me, are going to cancel each other out. So we will have x minus 4 equals, we still need to do plus or minus, and this is the square root of 7. Remember, you have calculators. You can type that in if you want to, or you can leave it. Now, we all know, because we're good algebra students, that this x has to be all by itself. All right? And in order to get x all by itself there, we have to add 4 to both sides. Okay, so our answers are going to look a little bit crazy here. Now, that plus 4, I like to put it out front. So we have 4 plus or minus the square root of 7. That actually means we have 2 different decimal answers. We have one that is the 4 plus root 7, and we have a second one that is 4 minus root 7. Okay, and if you want to take out your calculators right now and type in what 4 plus root 7 is, you should get 6.646 if we round to 3, or 4 minus root 7 would be 1.354 if we round to 3 decimal points. So those would be your decimal answers. If you want to leave them in exact form, you certainly can. Those would be your exact answers over there circled in blue. Either one, perfectly fine with me. It is a little bit trickier, so might take a lot more practice for us on this one, on these ones. Okay, let's look at these guys. We have x plus 6 squared, but it's multiplied by 4. So the first thing we should do is divide by 4. It's going to leave me with x plus 6 squared is equal to 8. Square root both sides, so we get that stuff to cancel out, or the square to cancel out. X plus 6 equals plus or minus square root 8. Then to get x by itself, we have x plus 6. We don't want x plus 6. We want just x, so we're going to subtract 6. And that number that you add or subtract, if you put it in front, would be the best place for it. Okay, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 8. I don't have my calculator handy. You can type in those decimals, or get those decimals on your own. I'm going to leave my answer like that for right now. All right, let's talk about another one. Okay, now we have 2 times x minus 2 squared equals 18. Divide by 2. We're isolating that square root piece, or that squared piece. Then we square root both sides, because that's how we undo squares. So I have x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of minus 3. And now to get rid of x minus 2, to undo that, we have to add 2. So I'm going to have 2 plus or minus 3. Well, 3 is a nice number. We can add and subtract 3. So let's do 2 plus 3 and get our answer of 5. And 2 minus 3, and we get our answer of negative 1. So one of these is 2 plus 3, just like in our last examples, and one of them is 2 minus 3. So when they come out to be exact like that, you definitely want to simplify what you can. All right? Those are kind of nicer, I think, because you don't have a radical to deal with. I think we should try a couple more. Let's do this one. So we're going to divide by 4 because we need that squared thing to be all by itself. So q minus 3 squared is equal to 7. Square root. So you get q minus 3 equals plus or minus, and that square root of 7, of course, is not a nice little decimal. So we're just going to leave it as root 7 for right now. Q minus 3 we must undo. So we'd have adding 3 on both sides. Okay, that looks like a 31. So I'd have 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. And again, I don't have a calculator next to me, so I'm going to leave it just like that. We do still have our 2 answers, just like we had most of the time yesterday. Okay, most of the time yesterday we had our 2 answers. 3 plus root 7 and 3 minus root 7 are our 2 answers here. The second one on this page, here's our stuff that's squared, so I need to get rid of the 3. So we're going to divide by 3. T plus 5 squared. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Square root both sides. So I have t plus 5 is equal to plus or minus square root of 8. And then t plus 5 is undone by subtracting 5 from both sides. So t equals negative 5 plus or minus root 8. How are those looking to you? Do you think you can make some sense out of that? Okay. Pause the video right now and see if you can solve these two. One of them is more like a review from yesterday, and the second one is an example of what we were just talking about today. So pause the video, try to solve them on your own, and then resume the video and see if your answers match mine. See you in a bit. Okay, welcome back. So let's solve and see if you got these same things I did. I'm going to first, I have to get my squared thing right here. It's just t squared. I have to get that all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2 first. 4 minus 2 is 2. Divide by negative 5. And I get t squared equals a negative 2/5, which is a decimal. And if we try to take the square root here, this side is negative. And what did we say about square roots of negative yesterday? Not possible. So did you get no solution? Good. How about the second one? How'd that go? I divide by 3 first. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And then square root both sides. So I will have x minus 4 equals plus or minus 3. And then add 4 to both sides. 4 plus or minus 3. 3 not being a radical, we can definitely figure out our two integer solutions easily. 4 plus 3 is 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. So there are our two solutions there. I hope you found those. Let me know if you have any questions as you start to do this assignment tonight, and have a great day.